And welcome back into Open Line. I'm Chuck Long. We're glad that you're joining us this hour. This is Ask an Expert Hour. We're talking to one of the best legal minds in the state of Tennessee, talking about one of the most popular guests that we have on Open Line, Kevin Kennedy from the Kennedy Law Firm. We're going back to Kevin. Kevin, you know, it's just, again, we say this often, but so many times it's the questions that people ask. Not only, of course, that's going to help them, but it helps so many of the viewers because so many people have similar thoughts, similar questions. So as always, like I said, it's just such a great help to have you answering these questions. For the folks, we are going to go back to our lines right now. Sandra is on the line with us. Sandra, you are on Open Line. Do you have a question or comment for Kevin?
Yes, I was wanting to know about my Social Security. I'm getting ready to turn 62. And in my divorce decree, it says that that any and all retirement benefits to which the husband may be entitled or otherwise have an equitable or legal interest in shall be equally divided at such time as the husband reaches the age of 60. And I will soon be turning 62, so I was thinking about retirement early. Will I get his retirement?
Okay, the first thing you do is you look at the final decree. The final decree, the judge, what he would end up doing is looking at the four corners of that document. That's why it's important when you do that, if there is a misunderstanding, clear it up right there. So specifically, if it said he was going to give you retirement, it didn't necessarily say specifically Social Security. So again, we have to go to the specific wording of every document and then analyze that. There's a host of things you need to try to get some more information and know that, is your husband alive? Has he deceased? Did he remarry? What my recommendation is for you, ma'am, I would go to the Social Security Administration, let them pull up everything and discuss with the representatives what benefits that that are available to you. If he had a retirement from a place of employment, a 401k, then those are probably the funds that you would be going after. A lot of times they say a woman gets 50%. The final decree has to say that. And if it says you get 30%, 35%, we see it, we're right outside the Fort Campbell Army base. So we constantly hear 50% of the military retirement. And then it gets into wording. Remember, that's why you should always have your lawyer draw the papers, because it can make a big money difference when you say 50% of the gross, 50% of the net. Wait a minute. He retired, but he had all his retirement converted to disability. So guess what? We're fighting those all the time going, and they said, I don't have any retirement. You get nothing because all the money I get is disability. So the question that you ask, you need to look at yours specifically. And then if it's regarding talk to the administration, find out what their rules are and see if your circumstance fits within that. If he's still alive, you have a right to bring action if he doesn't pay you what he's supposed to. The law is based on common law, what is fair. And then the wording, they say it in the law business, the devil's in the details. So that's why I want your lawyer to write it up and not the other lawyer. And people that say, well, we just use the same lawyer. Terrible mistake. You will live to regret that. Well, I didn't want to hire the lawyer. I didn't have the extra money. The truth is, whoever has the money to hire the lawyer, it pays off big. So let me make it real clear. If it was my son, my daughter, my grandchild, get them a lawyer for the interpretation. And you got to watch out. Some of these lawyers say, yeah, it said you got this, the retirement, and then they converted everything to disability. You know what you come up with then? It's a good interpretation. You get nothing. So we still fight that all the time. And we can use words for alimony and instead of retirement to make sure our clients are protected. Thank you for the question. I hope that I helped you with that, ma'am.
Absolutely. Great information as always, Kevin. And that kind of goes back to one of the top 10 reasons that you hire a lawyer is because sometimes not having a lawyer can actually cost you more, as you were just alluding to right then.
Chuck, the truth is we use it at the law firm, the Kennedy Law Firm, all the time, these sayings. Assume nothing. Well, I assumed we would get this. You heard Kevin Kennedy say, assume nothing. Also, one of the maxims we use here, is if it can be interpreted against you, it will be. So I have lawyers, we get into arguments at the very end, and I say, well, just put it in the pay. They say, Kevin, we don't have to write all these things. I said, just appease me, please. Just appease me and put it in here that she gets 50% of the 401k, which is valued at $650,000. We don't have to do that, Kevin. I said, I know we don't have to, but a good understanding keeps down a misunderstanding. Keep advancing, because if we leave that issue open, I've already told you they'll fire that lawyer, and you got a whole new lawyer who said, that's not what was said, that's not what it means, and the judge will read every word, and then he'll have to interpret. If it goes bad, we've got to appeal it to the Court of Appeals. A lot of money. You got 3 judges. 2 might stand with Kevin. 2 might stand against him. And if it's that big, we have to go to the Supreme Court.
All right, good to know. Okay, we are going back to the lines right now. Lloyd is on the line with us right now. Lloyd, good evening. Do you have a question or a comment for Kevin? Can you hear us, Lloyd?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
The state of Tennessee requires you to have liability insurance on an automobile. Can that be replaced with a $1 million liability personal policy?
Okay, here's what the Kevin Kennedy would recommend. I always recommend have an insurance policy. There's too many avenues to interpret, and I really don't want to put a person's assets on the line. I don't really want to do that. Now, what I am saying to you, can you get an umbrella policy? It's minimum expense for $1 million coverage. Absolutely. And I'm telling you, you ought to consider doing it. I'm telling you, you ought to do it. It's minimum expense. Well, what does that really mean, Kevin? Well, this is what it means. If we go out and we have minimum insurance coverage, $25,000, and you run into somebody driving a Mercedes, that's a $135,000 car, the insurance company will offer the $25,000 and you're out. The other $90,000 that's owed, they're going to come after you personally, and they won't quit. They're relentless. It's called subrogation. They have to go, and they'll just keep on dogging you, put a lien on your home, get a judgment, put a lien on your property, could force you into bankruptcy. So I don't want to do that. Now, if you had the policy and the insurance company draws down and said, we found an exclusion, Mr. Kennedy, we're not going to cover, then that's when the Kennedy law firm would say, no, you're not going to pay voluntarily, but you're going to pay. Over the years, it gets into this kind of talk, and they say, well, sue us. And then, are you bluffing? Are you really serious? Many times when they look at their lawyers and they go research the insurance company, they research the lawyers, they look at their website, how many lawyers do they have, how long they've been in business, what is their reputation? They'll Google you. So, you know, truly our life is an open book now. That's why your reputation is so important. But I really would want you, sir, to have that umbrella policy at $1 million, tell your family to do the same. Whoever's in the insurance, whoever it's insured, it only covers that person. And there's a host of exclusions in those policies. So you check out on the insurance company, what's their position. Sure, I can get insurance at a $25,000, but if I get in a car wreck, the insurance company says, we're not paying. Well, guess what? They just got you sued. And then we have to spend more money on my private lawyers. That answers your questions.
All right, great lesson for all of our viewers this evening, Kevin. We are going back to the lines right now, and I think Lucy is on the line with us. Lucy, we're glad that you're here tonight. Do you have a question or a comment for Kevin?
Am I on?
You certainly are.
Oh, hey,
You're
y'all.
on, Lucy.
Listen, I've got a couple of comments, Mr. Kennedy. The first thing is about car accidents and recording somebody called in. I highly suggest that no matter how junky your car is, that you get a dash cam, because I really strongly feel that you will be judged if you're in the junky car and the car that's newer, and the driver's dressed better than you are, you might be coming off the fry line or something. They'll get a better judgment on the scene from the police officers. I suggest that you have a dash cam for the accident when it happens, and then cut it off. And if you have a smartphone, start recording everything, because I have never had an accident report come back that said what I said to the police officer. You know, and the other thing is somebody could have expired tags and rear end you, and you would think that they'd get a ticket for the tags and rear ending you in the state of Tennessee, but apparently, if you're dressed nicer, you have a nicer car, they get an on-the-spot kangaroo court judgment in their favor, and you're looked down on. So, you know, I hate to sound so bitter about that, but that's just how I feel. Now, the other thing is about your first caller, Mr. Kennedy, that said they got a 14-day notice. They live in subsidized housing. I didn't think you could do that to people that were in federally subsidized housing, kick them out in 14 days like that. And the other thing is you suggested that they contact a lawyer. I'm sitting here thinking, if you're living in subsidized housing, what lawyer's going to take your case? I'm going to hang up and take your response off the air. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, Lucy.
Thank you. Hey, she's on a roll, and I don't really disagree. Now, you know, the truth is she's making the point that people stereotype. Now, you know, we're resistant to stereotyping and discrimination, but the truth is we live in a real world, and there's real people, and there's real private opinions. So she's given us some kind of analysis that every listener should evaluate. You know, again, when I come back, you have to look at the lease, whether it's subsidized or not. And I heard you. That's why they have Legal Services of Middle Tennessee. That's why some lawyers even give money to Legal Services of Middle Tennessee. No one wants injustice. No one. Inside every man and woman, there is a sense of justice and what's right and what's fair. And in my closing argument for years, I used to say the halls of justice will scream out in rage if this happens. And I still believe that today. And I like for people to be able to stand up and express themselves. And that's why we live in America, where we have freedom of expression. So I salute you, ma'am. I thank you. We don't have to agree with everything that everyone says. We can note it and we can evaluate it. And I want to stay away from those. You know, one point that she did break in, somebody runs in the back end of you, and their cars were already out of registration. Should the police issue them a ticket? My professional opinion, yes. Do they always do it? No. And so the fact that people are in substandard or subsidized housing, that really, the law doesn't make that differentiation. There are some policies that may be out here. But remember, there's the law, and there are policies by agencies who run this. So we have to determine what is policy, what is law, and the laws can be interpreted. And guess what? I've seen so many creative lawyers, it can look like it's black and white, but it's not. And that's one of my strong points when we go to a jury. We try to tell the facts, why the facts just do not fit in that circumstance. And if it's reasonable, we're going to go with it. And I'll tell you again, what would the reasonable, prudent person say under the circumstances? Never say never. You'll hear me say, like Winston Churchill, his famous speech, never give up, never give up, never give up. I'll say never give in, never give out, and never give up. Thank you for that phone call.
Absolutely. We appreciate that, Lucy. And like you say, Kevin, what's right, what's fair, that goes a long way. All right, we are going back to the lines right now. Sue is on the line with us. Sue, we're glad you're here. Do you have a question or a comment for Kevin?
Yes. I just wanted to ask what all was involved in detesting a will?
Okay. In the state of Tennessee, if someone has a will and we feel like someone was left out of the will, then you have a right to contest it. What are some of the main reasons people contest wills? There's what's known as undue influence. That might be where one child goes to mama and she's on her deathbed and says, Mama, you need to write this and write everybody out and leave it all to me. And if she used undue influence, Mama, I'm going to move out, I'm not going to take care of you, then that's pressure. So it didn't have her free will to make her last will and testament. So the other brothers and sisters can file a will contest, and here we go. They would try to advance that. So every case is different. Now, the truth of the matter is, over the years, I've been on both sides of the will contest. And, you know, smart, reasonable lawyers are looking for a way to settle it. If we've got 3 children and one was out and the others go hire these lawyers and they say it's going to be a massive expense and a long drawn, it's an emotional drain. Can we not come to some common ground? Remember, reasonable people will come to common ground. If it's unreasonable, then the consequences go up, the expenses go up, and if we've got to fight till the last man stands, we fight till the last man stands. But that's not what a really smart man would do. And of course, you know, it takes 2 of us to settle. And if we've got millions of dollars at stake, or hundreds of thousands, or a big multi-acre farm, and several houses, it would make sense that one could make an offer of compromise. And if we're just dealing with people who are completely unrealistic, then load the guns, bring the cannons, fill the rifles, whatever we got to do. It's all out battle. We're going, and then we'll just let the chips fall where they may. Sometimes somebody tries to come in that's not even a relative, and they're going to try to take grandmama's farm from us, and my grandparents slaved for that farm, working on tobacco. We'll draw the line. You have to draw the line sometimes, and that's why I want to hire the best lawyer, the most competent team, and I want to have a good understanding. What are our risks? A full disclosure. Let's discuss it. And then if that's the case, then here we go. Let's go, and we'll just fight till the last man stands. I don't like that. I don't like it in a church. I don't like it in a corporation. I don't like it in the courtroom. But sometimes they draw down and we have no choice but to stand our ground. I will not let them come in and take my children. I'm not going to let them come in and take my home. If I'm hired, I'm telling you, don't let them do it. Because we've got a lot of tools. We got depositions. We got all kinds of tools that can stop people.
Absolutely. Such great information, Kevin. We always appreciate that. We are going to take a short break, but we come back. We're going to take more of your questions here on Open Line from Kevin Kennedy. So come on back with us.